I'm Cher Miller.
I'm Rob Dietz.
And I'm Jason Bradford. Welcome to Crazy Town, where the Fraternal Order of the Chupacabra is the only organization keeping you out of desperate poverty.
There's the book club, the Rotary Club, the Mickey Mouse Club, and the Club Sandwich. Whatever your preference, you might want to think about joining a club. Social clubs, fraternal orders, and the like have had a storied and critical role in public life. That is, until government programs and technology gave us an out from having to deal with each other. But with modernity failing, will clubs and community organizations make a huge comeback? In this episode, we explore club life, past, present, and future, if there is one.
Hey guys, I'm happy to see you two.
Liar.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this episode, and it came out of this day I had. I had this day in the fall. It was probably in September, early October. I'm not actually sure when. But there was this day when I was, you know these days where you're super scheduled, right?
Yes, every day of my life.
Okay,
basically.
Not for me, but some days it's like I go from one thing to another and I having to fit stuff in. And this day I realized I was basically bouncing from one club to another.
Like a nightclub? You're talking like you're going dancing?
Nightclub, golf club.
I was not on Miami Beach or something like that. No, I was here in Corvallis, and I was club hopping.
Oh, I see. So you're going from the
Peacock.
The Freemasons to the Bilderbergs.
Yeah.
To the,
Yeah, to that, what's the one in the Redwoods?
Bohemian Grove.
The Bohemian Grove. Yeah, I was doing it. No, actually, I was going from tennis club where I actually teach and play
Fancy
socially.
place.
I wasn't aware of this.
I know. I like to talk about it.
Fancy
I'm a teaching pro, not a touring pro. I have to make sure people understand that.
There's a big bag of rackets that's actually right behind your seat right now that I can see.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
I'm sponsored by Babolat French company. Anyhow, and then I had this buddy, Craig, and I'm in this wine club, and so he wanted me to come help.
La-di-da.
I know.
Yeah, tennis, wine.
And we had to do some
Is there a
press or whatever.
croquet club as well?
I bet are you in the money club, like the future business leaders of America or something?
These are pretty frugal clubs, to be honest with you. That's part of what we'll talk about.
Okay.
And then the last was the farming club. Okay. And so anyway, my day was just, clubbed out, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, very wholesome.
Did you have a club sandwich?
No.
Well, it's pretty clear we're going to be talking about clubs. So maybe for the listener, we could just define club. And we're batting pretty high on dad jokes
Not bad.
so far.
Club. Bat. Not bad. Club.
Yeah,
Clubbing.
We're clubbing a high average. Anyway, We're not talking about that, heavy tapering off, made of wood bat. That's not it.
No.
We're not talking about the nightclub where you can find me in the club, bottle full of bub.
Dancing with Shorty.
Hey, I got the X if you're into taking drugs.
Wow.
Not that.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about that little black clover on the playing cards, that kind of club. I think we're here to talk about gathering with people regularly, maybe a periodic schedule for a particular activity or interest, right?
Yep.
So you've got these very informal groups like a book club or a knitting club, something like that. But you could also have very formal ones, right? Something with legal status even, like a Rotary Club. Or
501c7, I think that is in the IRS parlance.
Or like, I know one of your clubs, you didn't mention it, but one of yours is the Young Republicans Club that
Right.
you're a member of.
Yeah, correct. I'm not that young anymore, though, so they kicked me out.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's...
But you are a Republican.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
So I'm...
Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Government listeners? Continue.
I'm interested to hear about the history of clubs. I'm not much of an expert, but Jason, I understand you've been reading up on this.
Well, I read this book a long time ago, probably about 20 years ago, Bowling Alone. It was kind of made the rounds, was pretty famous.
Yeah, I remember that.
Robert Putnam, a sociologist.
Putnam, right?
Putnam, yeah. So Robert Putnam had been studying the decline in these social organizations and how much time people spend sort of by themselves or in their own homes versus with other people in groups in these regular meetings and things like that. And he talked about how these had been on decline for the past 50 years. And by now that's, the past 75 years. And one of the things he said was important about clubs is that they bonded people together, sort of in the club. But then also there was this idea of bridging social capital. In that sense, you have, like, I'm in 3 clubs, right? And there's people that are in my tennis club, let's say, or in the wine club, who happen to be good at something and happen to maybe be part of another association. And sometimes I can figure that out and get the benefits of their bridge to this other world, right?
That may even be how you ended up in the wine club, all those tennis wine drinkers.
In fact, my wine club buddies are also in the farming and the tennis club. So that they have a series.
So you have
overlap.
one club, and it's basically the Jason Bradford club.
No. I think that's the only one that's in all 3, but there's a lot of 2 out of 3s. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so Robert Putnam was talking about the decline in these organizations. But I think it's important to talk about the role that some of these organizations have played in public life going way back, right?
Yeah.
There was a time when fraternal orders were really instrumental as, like, they weren't just a way of people bonding together socially or, building connections and ties within a community. They provided really serious and critical resources for people.
Right.
So if you go back and you look at the ways that they were integrated, at least in American public life, if you look back at the early 20th century, it's estimated that there were over 10 million Americans who were part of hundreds and hundreds of different fraternal organizations or lodges. There's one historian who estimated that a third of all men in the United States belonged to one.
Like at the early 20th century, a third of men.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the number's probably larger because that's just men, right?
Right.
There are also clubs and orders for women. There are ones that existed for African Americans, Jews, others who are often excluded from the other clubs, right? So they formed their own clubs. It was a major, major part of American public life that we're not even aware of anymore, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they really key part of what they did is provide service. A lot of things that you think should be provided by government, these clubs and lodges would provide. So one example that we know of is the lodges would pool their membership dues, so each member pays in a little bit, and then they would hire a doctor that would take care of everybody that's a member. And, if they had enough members, enough dues, they would hire a staff of nurses as well. And so, this is them taking care of their own healthcare needs. Let's say the doctor didn't work out so good, was whatever, like the doctor on The Simpsons or whatnot, they could just fire him, right?
Right.
And they would also take care of some other services too, like if somebody died and you need to pay for their funeral, a burial, you could do that. You could also provide education for children. So, real services that you today I would never think of, oh yeah, that's going to be provided by the club.
Right.
And so, this is before the New Deal we're talking about. So that's the key point. And essentially you have sort of insurance programs being developed, but it's not this giant nationwide pools. It's all these local pools. It'd be like somebody coming up every week and just giving $20 to that club as part of their dues, really regular amount. And then that pool would be available when there was a crisis for people.
After the New Deal, I think you probably can't point to one single cause of the decline of these clubs or these fraternal orders or whatever, but certainly I think when we developed government social welfare programs, Social Security, other benefits that the federal government or state governments provided, which were hard-won, victories, and I think a lot of people look at as signs of progress. One of the maybe inadvertent impacts of that is that the role of some of these clubs and fraternal organizations and communities wasn't the same anymore. People weren't turning towards the club to provide that kind of safety net for them or their families. And then when you couple that with the advances in technology, people having cars, and you have television, you have other forms
of... The radio before television even led to some of this.
So that people maybe didn't have quite the same drive for that sort of social connection or that entertainment.
Yeah, you didn't have to go to the club to listen to a band when you could get it on the radio anymore, kind of thing.
Well, it's bizarre because, I watched a lot of television as a kid, which preempted my joining a club, obviously. And
Mickey Mouse Club.
But, when you, this is my only experience of clubs is watching TV shows that were old at the time that I was a kid, like Flintstones. Fred Flintstone was a member of the Royal Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes or something. And on Happy Days, I remember
Happy Days,
the dad would wear this leopard hat with a tassel or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only experience.
Like, doesn't exist. I mean, really, these clubs have gone into terminal decline.
Yeah.
There's like hardly anything left.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about the Granges on this podcast, but they were a central pillar, especially in rural American life, and there's still some left, you know, but they're often moribund, and it's interesting because the ones that maybe you could look at and say they're a bit more thriving, like the Rotary Clubs, for example. I think all of us have given presentations to Rotary
a couple
Clubs.
times.
And you see it when you enter the town, right? On the billboard, it'll name the town and it'll have the R symbol for the Rotary Clubs.
Now, but a lot of what their focus is when it's about their members working together on something, it's about actually not providing needs for their membership. It's actually meeting the needs of people in other parts of the world, for
Rotary
example.
International.
Exactly. So and that's a testament, not that there aren't obviously many, many Americans in real need, but for those members, the ones who are part of the Rotary Club, it's like they're not looking for the club itself to help them meet their own needs.
And that's why it survived, because its purpose, didn't have to change. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I understood that we were going to be talking about clubs and looking at the positives, I fell in the little bit of this rabbit hole of, there's some potential bad things that we need to clear out of the way. So I wanted to go through sort of 3 finer points about clubs with you guys and see if we can put these things aside. The first one is that, there's plenty of clubs out there that maybe do provide positive social scene like the ones you're in, Jason. But often clubs have pretty nefarious purposes, right? Like you can think of, like if you were thinking of a motorcycle club, right? It could be good. They just ride around. But you could also have the Hells Angels, right? Sort of violent and drug dealing. Around here, we have the Proud Boys as a, far right, neo-fascist, racist, militant, like, political violence from them has occurred in our part of the country here. And so when we're suggesting clubs, you got to look at this dividing line between ones that are
read their mission statement, folks. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of hard.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're often transparent.
But you also have to be careful because the shitty clubs, there's people join them because of the camaraderie that they get out of them.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know. I don't know how you steer people away from that.
Yeah. Also, we're not talking about online clubs because this is what's happening is a lot of people are finding social connection online, right? They get on Reddit, they get on Twitch, which I think is a gaming thing.
Well, it's so I can watch you play video games.
Okay, great. Not that interested in that in this perspective, and we'll get into probably why that is.
Yeah, if you're in a multiplayer first-person shooter game, does that count as being in a club? It's kind of interactive, right? But
I actually do think that there are a lot of people who find community online through some of these things, and you can call them clubs on some level.
Yes,
But you're talking about in-person clubs. You were saying, though, Rob, I just want to make sure we get this right. You were talking about like 3 different issues, right? So you talked about some clubs are actually bad news, right? And then I think you just brought up one, Jason.
Yeah, that was one of mine too, is the difference between online and in real life.
Right.
The other one that I thought about is, a lot of clubs kind of start to veer into this territory of cults, right? You may be going to join something.
They share a lot of letters together, clubs and cults.
Yeah.
Well, think about it, man. You're going into some nice club. They've invited you in, and suddenly they're passing out the Kool-Aid, and then all of a sudden, half the people are dropping dead on the spot.
That's not on day one.
Yeah, it's not that quick.
Right.
They start with stop talking to your family.
Yeah.
Give us all your money.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
Well, I used to have a bunch of friends named David, so I joined the Branch Davidians, thinking it was people who like David, but then the FBI came and burned our building down.
Look, I'm going to build a tree house, okay, and we'll have a password on the door. You
Are
can get in.
girls allowed in our club?
Yeah, because we're big boys now. Is someone you love disconnected from reality? Perhaps spending too much time online and not IRL? Maybe they doubt the spherical shape of the Earth or the role of atmospheric gases in regulating infrared radiation to space. If so, send them to Reality Camp, a place to learn about living in a physical world. We take things slowly and progress, starting with basic exercises like pouring water to measure volume, dropping objects to understand gravity and mass, drawing colors to explore light, and feeling textures, hot and cold objects, and smelling things to appreciate the range of our material relationships to matter. Therapy in a group setting can be very validating and empowering, such as seeing that you and others recognize the apple is red. Later stages of the camp recreate famous historic experiments in many aspects of natural history, such as how the ancient Egyptians estimated the circumference of the Earth. After several weeks of treatment, many families have found tremendous relief to have a reasonable, rational, and relatable loved one back at home again. Reality Camp, because almost anyone can go nuts living in Crazy Town. So guys, naturally, we all think about the great unraveling, the fact that modernity seems to be waning.
Sputtering.
Yes. And so how are we feeling about the ability of these New Deal institutions that have been around for, 100 years almost to be viable going forward? Is there a way to compensate for their demise, maybe? Can we look to clubs and their historic roles? Go.
Well, can I first poke a little hole in the premise of modernity is waning?
Okay.
I mean, the consequences from modernity are growing, but I don't see a lot of evidence of modernity waning right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of unraveling stuff, but there's more cars, there's more concrete, there's more trade. Well, maybe right now there's not more trade with a government shutdown and
so maybe it's progress that's waning, or maybe there are elements of modernity that while we're doubling down on it, especially you look at AI, for example, and you could say that's not waning. They're just pouring fuel on the fire.
How are vaccination rates, though, going?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think your key point is, let's put aside terminology. The question is, can we rely on some of the institutions that have come about as a result of this quote-unquote march of progress, which we've talked about before. We talked about it when we did our false prophets episode, and we did Steven Pinker, right? We talked about all these signs of progress, that he's pointed to that have been basically, in our view, I think probably only possible because of complexity and the pouring of fossil fuels on every fucking thing and industrialization.
Refining industrialization, getting a little bit better about eking out more and more from machines.
We created these institutions like New Deal programs, for example. And right now, as we're recording this, we're seeing government shutdown. We're seeing 42 million Americans losing, SNAP benefits, health insurance costs are going to skyrocket. Many people are uninsured already.
Yes.
So I think that's why you're bringing this up.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing
that part. I definitely get the breakdown of government in the complexity era and the breakdown of just the social scene. Yeah.
Institutions. Yeah. Really. These are institutions that have replaced, in some ways, and probably for good reasons, have replaced the role that some of these clubs in local organizations.
Well, you asked how do we feel about this going forward. I mean, the fact that here in the United States, people who are in power are conjuring up new congressional districts so that they can stay in power, so that they're, that kind of stuff is a real breakdown in the trust in an institution. It's like you can't even agree that we're going to have a republic, a representative democracy. How are we supposed to believe that you're going to provide health care?
No, I totally think about it. I can completely envision, say 5 or 10 years from now, am I going to be paying taxes to a federal government who will be providing services in return at any kind of scale that's going on now?
I think, yes, you will, because the last thing that they're going to hold on to for as long as possible is getting those revenues from you. Do you know what I mean? I think we've already seen that the quote unquote the system goes to any lengths it can to perpetuate itself for as long as possible. So I don't see this stuff going away overnight. I would say the benefits of some of these, we're already seeing a decline in those things, right? The thing that I wonder about is it's almost like a point of bifurcation that we have right now, because you could say, looking at the situation we're in right now, where people are feeling like the things that we've counted on in terms of a social fabric, right, in these institutions are no longer meeting our needs. So we either say, okay, we have to meet those needs in other ways, and that might be returning to kind of some of these models of having these local organizations or clubs meet them. The other way you can go about it is be like, well, actually, let's not debate over whether or not we renew federal subsidies for like Obamacare, for example. Let's actually have universal health care. And what we should be doing is doubling down on actually bolstering those institutions and those programs even more. And I'm torn about that, frankly, because, with a lot of these clubs or whatever more loosely organized ways of communities having their own needs met, a lot of people fall through the cracks in that situation and don't get they can't contribute dues. Right. So they're not going to get the benefits of a healthcare system. They're already the ones who aren't getting healthcare right now. Do you know? I'm frankly torn about it, but it might not be a bad sort of like backup plan to be thinking about,
Yeah, that's how I was thinking. As you're saying you're torn. I mean, I'm not really torn. I would love it if we had universal health care. I mean, I know you would too. Yeah. But the reality of, hey, these institutions are freaking falling apart makes it pretty hard to place trust that that's going to happen. So what I think you're suggesting, Jason, is we start flexing the club muscle,
Well, it's the idea what Naomi Klein sort of
shock doctrine.
Shock doctrine. Like we need to get these ideas out there at least.
Yeah.
So if really things start unraveling, that people have notions of how to respond more quickly, more effectively than a kind of a chaos and shock, of, oh my gosh, what do we do now?
The person we should really talk to, Jason, is not you.
Okay.
It's your wife.
I'll shut up. Oh.
Because your wife she's a medical professional.
Correct.
Right? And she has worked basically in service of people in real need in this community.
Yeah.
Right? So I do wonder, like the few doctors I know are not happy with the medical system as it currently exists. My son wants to be a doctor. He's going to school right now and he's on a pre-med track, you know? And I think about like how much of his life, if we continue to follow the path that we're currently on, would be spent dealing with bureaucratic bullshit and health insurance and all that stuff that's keeping you from, and you can't really spend enough time with your patients.
Right.
And so I actually wonder that model of like some of these organizations hiring their own doctor.
Yeah, it's
do you know what I mean?
like, they have called concierge medicine.
Yeah.
And that sounds
that's only for rich people.
But actually, that's how it used to be.
Right. But I wonder, what I'm getting at is I actually wonder if there are people who would actually be really interested in pursuing some of those models and getting out of this system.
There already are examples of physicians who don't take insurance, do entirely fee-for-service. And
they do it for chickens or eggs.
Right. And actually in small towns, I've heard stories of this. There are doctors that live like in Maine or whatever. No, even today that will do trade.
Yeah.
So, because what you've done is if you cut out all that bureaucracy, you save so much money. Like the average physician's group, like say a small family practice office, spends the cost of one physician just to deal with insurance, like a full-time set of staff. It's like that extra burden. They might only be 8 physicians, but one other staff member is just dealing with complexity. And that, if that goes away, there's actually tremendous savings.
Well, where the bartering is actually really happening in the medical field is in prisons. Doctors are providing services for cigarettes.
Jesus. Drug trades.
Can you imagine paying a doctor in cigarettes?
Just wait a decade or two, Rob.
There used to be ads with doctors smoking cigarettes.
Yeah,
maybe those will come back.
We talked about the health benefits of cigarettes. I want to just a slight little pivot on this thing, right? Which is we were talking about like healthcare and medicine. Let's talk about climate-related mitigation and resilience stuff, for example. So,
all right, bring it home.
Look at insurance, right?
Okay.
You have a home and you're in a fire-prone
Oh, yeah.
area.
They're not going to insure you anymore.
So we're already seeing insurance costs go way up.
Yeah.
And then some insurance companies are like, we're not insuring anymore.
Yeah.
And so now we're at a situation where you're looking at some states who are trying to develop insurance programs. Some states like Florida who deny, basically, their leadership deny the climate's even a problem.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But you're like, so is this a situation where the government needs to use the revenues that they get from state taxes or federal taxes,
The lottery,
to pay for these needs and do it like in a broad swath? But it's basically, in a sense, paying these health insurance companies to stay in business, to keep serving these populations. Or is there a way of thinking about this differently when you think about the needs of a community that are in a fire-prone area? There might be pools of funding that community members pull together that helps, like if somebody loses a home or something like that. And it might be, this is actually much more difficult because it's like a be isolated home.
right?
Like
The whole thing goes.
an isolated person got cancer and you come
Right.
in to their aid. It's like everyone got cancer
It's like
suddenly.
a Paradise,
So
California
it
event.
might not work to think about this, but if you think about pooling some resources, not to necessarily buy insurance policies, but to cover, maybe it's actually even more the costs of like fireproofing your home,
Right.
or thinking about other ways of building the resilience capacity within a community. And maybe there's even these additional economic benefits where you're pulling these resources, you're hiring local contractors to do this work. So you're talking about the middleman. Fuck these big insurance companies. Is there a way that you could actually do this on a more community scale where there's like the economic benefits stay there? I don't know, but I certainly think it's worth thinking about in a way that we haven't been thinking about very much.
Yeah. Well, I also think if you are, if you're in your community clubs, and it doesn't even have to be these kind of formal, technical, say, with a goal of insuring or whatever, but even if you were just like in the wine club with a bunch of people and Jason's house gets busted up, then all these drunk winos can come
Yeah.
over and help him rebuild. And
Yeah.
I mean,
When they're drunk,
well, maybe you wait till you
a
sober
lot of
up.
injuries,
Yeah,
a lot
I know.
of things not hung straight.
Yeah.
But the point is a serious one, right? Like if you are an upstanding member of a group of
Yeah.
of people that share interests and do things together and like one another, like when bad times happen, you're going to prop each other up. That's how that stuff works. That's what
I'm
community
counting on.
is.
That's why I still pay my wine club dues.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, which is maybe we don't right now have to be thinking about a either or situation when it comes to some of these services that
Right.
underpin, that provide insurance or other,
That's the long game.
like we don't have to give up on those institutions that exist. Maybe we don't have to say, forget it, the New Deal's over, all these programs go away. There is no Social Security. There is no whatever. Maybe we should keep fighting to preserve those things and at the same time invest in ways of building through clubs, through informal or more formal organizations and community to look at how to provide some of the needs that are not being met, but also just through the process of doing that, and maybe some of it's social, is you have the social ties and that social connection that you're talking about, Rob, because we're going to need those even if there is a FEMA still in existence. We're still going to need the community connection to get through things. And there's great work been done by people like Daniel Aldrich who've looked at the strengths of social ties within a community across three different types. There's your bonding and your bridging ones, for example, that if you look at and you can assess the strength of a community's ties, you could see a correlation to how well they either prepare for disasters or recover after a disaster. The stronger their ties, the better off they are. So it's like there's a benefit to actually starting clubs or joining clubs if they're ones that already exist.
Yeah.
For that reason alone.
Well, I mean, what about, I know people in our space sometimes complain that they can't talk about what we talk about to other people. And part of what I've learned is to sort of shut up about that and just get along with other people and talk about stupid stuff sometimes. But, I can talk about tennis, I can talk about wine, and
you're like, it's just a hint of cherry in this.
Exactly.
In this wine. Yeah.
No, I can get super snooty.
Yeah.
I can talk about how to hit a kick serve and all that kind of stuff. You want to get
at the wine club, they might be confused.
They might. But anyhow, you don't have to necessarily you can be a regular person in our world and get these social connections. And maybe you're going to find someone when they're sloppy drunk who wants to talk about the Civil War that's coming. And then that's my special friend.
Or the other alternative is start a new club, the Wet Blanket Society. Rob has talked about that before.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll take turns chairing the Wet Blanket Club here in town. Here in Crazy Town, we like to shine a spotlight on what a particular listener is thinking or doing. Maybe it can provide some inspiration or generate some ideas for you. In this listener spotlight, I want to share a comment we received on Apple Podcasts that's especially relevant for this episode about clubs and dealing with isolation. The comment is from Little Brook Farm, and it says, "It's hard to overstate how isolating it can be to feel like you're sitting in an audience at a play production and everyone but you thinks it's real. You've seen behind the curtain, but nobody will believe you if you tell them that it's just a performance. The folks at Crazy Town Podcast get it, and their show brings a little bit of sanity and humor to this world of make-believe that we're all spectators to and active participants in." They go on to say, "Thank you, Asher, Rob, and Jason, for sitting beside me in the theater and laughing at the tragic play that unfolds before us." So I see that as this is a member of the Crazy Town Club.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes I want to throw poop on the stage, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
But I'm not going to yell fire.
Uh-huh.
That's the one thing I want to.
It is good to know, though, that you can say whatever you need to say with us, and we're gonna at least, if we're not exactly in lockstep with you, we're somewhere on the same page, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the truth is, appreciate getting this feedback. The truth is, the separation between reality and how people are perceiving things is just growing. I mean, it is hard not to feel like you're losing it.
I think I'm an AI in this show, actually, people. We're testing this out now. So, sorry about that.
We're supposed to tell people.
I wasn't supposed to tell. You can cut this out in editing. Okay, now we get to do sharing time.
Aw.
I know. This is cool, and this might be nostalgic. There might be some pride, sense of fun here, kind of leave on a high note. So this section, I want to first start by asking you guys, what are the best clubs that you've been part of?
Well, I know what I want to say because it's sort of following up the discussion you had, Asher, where you're talking about do we need clubs to provide these services? And I think that's high stakes clubs, right? If you need to have a club that gives you medical insurance. Mm-hmm. But it got me thinking how about a club that's more like preventative care? And then it sort of led me to something I used to do. I used to be pretty engaged in martial arts as a club thing to do, not as a professional MMA fighter.
Yeah.
But the idea was, you go and you hang out and you learn techniques and you learn how to defend yourself. But it's also a sport, so you're getting lots of good, vigorous activity for your mind, body, and spirit. And I love that. It's really fun to kick your friends in the head.
I know. We're patting.
Did you do it like Dwight Schrute in The Office? You were doing it with little kids?
First of all, I do everything like Dwight Schrute in The Office. I'm wearing yellow with a brown tie and some golden
So this is just, you're talking about a club that you look fondly back on just because you were kicking the shit out of 7-year-old kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I was in a Taekwondo club. And so what was yours?
Mine was Kung Fu.
Oh, we should have gone at it.
I actually just want to see you guys fight each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may do.
We'll be back, listeners.
You're gonna have to train as an MMA ref.
Yeah.
Or a professional wrestling ref.
The truth of the matter is we're all so old we'll throw out our backs just climbing into the ring.
I quit my Taekwondo because I'm that hurt. I bruised my ribs. I'm did I break that little toe? So I decided, not for me anymore.
I'm actually going to go to be a little nostalgic and sincere for a minute. I know this is hard to believe, okay? But I was part of a youth group when I was kind of middle school and then primarily in high school. That's, I would say, probably saved my life. I was a very unhappy adolescent. I basically dropped out of high school for a couple of years. Kind of didn't go. I was angry, rebellious, sort of a loner.
Were you
at
listening to
school.
dead music backwards?
I was not. I wasn't listening to
music?
Grateful Dead yet.
Okay.
I was like,
saved you.
I had U2. I was big into Smiths for a while.
Okay.
That
Scary.
explains
That's
it right
scary
there.
right there.
No wonder you were upset.
Exactly.
Everything is terrible.
It's sort of the other way around. It was comforting for me to listen to music. Any case, I joined a Jewish youth group, and I found my whatever leadership skills I found there. My public speaking I found there. My ability to talk to girls I found there. My comradeship with people. My ability to kind of travel around, because we would go from when I was involved in it here in Portland all the way up. I had a girlfriend in Vancouver, British Columbia for a little while. Like,
so you had to figure out how to get there and meet her and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It really was like my outlet. It was my social outlet. A lot of the focus that we had, this was called the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization, and I wound up becoming the regional president down in California. And it was like a lot of it was focused on service. There was the intentionality to it. There was a lot of rules, of how we ran meetings. I had like a gavel that I used and all that. And it really was, if I didn't have that, I honestly think I would have been depressed, perhaps even really suicidal, you know? And so, it was a huge part of my life, formative experience for me.
That's pretty awesome that you found that, obviously. It also brings up the point, we talked earlier about how clubs have been in decline in public life, but the one place where I don't think that's necessarily true is at the high school, college. There's a lot of clubs for young people, and it's weird because I think a lot of people, maybe they don't get quite as awesome a life-saving experience as you had, but it really is formative, and we just drop it in adulthood, like so many other stupid things that we do as adults.
True. Yeah, we get busy.
What about you, Jason?
Well, I mean, I've talked about the tennis club. I think is just incredible. I joined probably about a little over 10 years ago, and I've been working there for a couple of years now. So I went from a member to an employee teaching. And what's amazing about it is there's little kids I teach that are 4, as young as 4. And then I taught this guy who was like 93, right? And so the range of people, like from age group,
who would win?
He wanted help with his serve.
Who would win, the 93-year-old or the 4-year-old?
That would have been a battle. It really would.
It'd be like you and me in a kung fu battle.
Like, I got the ball over the net. You didn't get it back. Okay, now you try. Anyhow. And then watching people, like even in middle age, like retirees, get better at something over a couple of years. Like seriously show up saying like, I've just retired, now I can spend time doing this. And them to just take that on and to watch their physicality improve and the social bonds they make. And then these kids I'm seeing really go through fast developmental changes and gain confidence and be so happy. I keep asking like, are you having fun? Right? Because you push them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's really hard, but yeah, it's fun. Like, good, Anyway, that's just been really heartwarming to see people from all different ages and stages in life. And you see people show up who are grumpy and upset, obviously, and like 6 months later, like they're in a good mood. And you don't know why. Was it the tennis? Was it something else? But these are like high school kids or junior high. Yeah,
just
weird.
That is something for
mean,
people.
some of these people, obviously, it's weird to be in their body right now, like 13-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah, I still keep wondering when it's going to get better.
But the fact that it's member-owned, nonprofit too, it's not snooty, and it tries to welcome people from all over town, whoever wants to show up, and it's relatively affordable. That to me, I think, is just a great place.
Well, I actually, this is sincere too, which again, you already had to say that's weird coming from you, Asher. I have to say it's even weirder coming from me, but it's very heartwarming to listen.
Our listeners are not here for sincerity.
I know, right?
What are we doing?
It was heartwarming to listen to your 2 stories of those clubs, their ability to say, help the 2 of you navigate the times that we're in, the great unraveling as we've referred to it. But I was wondering if we could expand this idea and talk a little bit about clubs that we've been part of, or maybe even ones that we haven't, or maybe ones that don't even exist yet, that would be good for navigating the difficult, turbulent times that are here now and that are on the
hitting a
horizon.
fuzzy yellow ball with a graphite racket and strings is going to be useful?
Connected to an app that tells you the speed of your racket.
I don't have that anymore.
I tried to say that I think your club is valid for that, but I'm just wondering if there's something outside of the fuzzy ball.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I think the routine of swinging a racket, does that help you with a scythe?
With the scything, I'm probably getting in the core strength, the shoulders.
You're doing Mr. Miyagi stuff. You have some other activity that trains
wax
you
on, wax off.
And the other activity that needs to happen.
That's right.
Now, the physicality is good to be transferable, I think, to the end times. But yeah, let's think about that.
I mean, I'm gonna toot your horn, Jason, for having created the farming club that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
I think farming clubs like that, and for folks who haven't heard us talk about it before, Jason has farmland here and has opened it up to a group of families to come together.
There's 12 households in it right now.
Yeah, who farm together, and we're working on our process of trying to figure out our systems. We've gotten a lot better this year, getting ahead on the weeding and also trying to figure out what roles, like we have different roles people play in terms of like distribution and all that stuff. And there's community aspects to it. We get together, I think once a quarter right now. We're going to look at maybe doing that a little bit differently. And so we're moving our bodies, we're learning real skills, we're growing food for our own families, we're having some social component to it. I get to bring my dog sometimes. You get to run around.
So cute.
It's like, and I think not everyone has a situation where they could do that, although there are urban gardens that people can be a part of. And I think there's oftentimes people have a real kind of community feel to some of those as well. So you could look around. It doesn't have to be that you have to find a farmer, but you might be able to find a farmer to work with. So I think that one's a great one for lots of reasons.
I've come out to a couple of days where you all are doing that. I'm not an official member, but if I'm here, I like to help. And I think you're underplaying some of the social aspect. Like you guys always have an awesome meal together, or at least often do when I've been here. Maybe I'm just here on the good times.
Yeah, you're on the good times.
But the sharing of food is huge in building community.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I get through is I wear these VR glasses. So I'm out there weeding, but what I actually feel like I'm doing is playing like a shoot up game instead. Right. And then I don't have to talk to anybody. That's just that's the way I manage it.
But what from my perspective is watching people for a couple of years, it's kind of like the tennis situation where I'm seeing these skills develop. And it's really fascinating to watch people's bodies learn these tasks. And Asher has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I know the difference between eggplant now and garlic.
Well,
I couldn't tell before.
Year one, you just hoed out all the plants that you were trying to grow.
Anything that was green, I just cut down.
Cut
it drove me crazy because it was like, hey, Jason, is this a weed? Hey, Jason, is this a weed? And people were so slow because they couldn't recognize spinach versus lamb's quarters or whatever. That could be kind of tough.
You needed to go drill sergeant on them. You're like, this is a weed, smack. This is not a weed.
If you don't figure this out, you're going to have to eat it.
So get the farming club going now because it takes a while for these skills to develop.
I'm like barely, I'm barely, it's like a toddler, just barely on my feet, with this.
Yeah. Well, for me, one of the reasons I ended up in Corvallis in the first place was to join the Coho Eco Village, which is a sustainability-oriented, intentional community. I lived there for 12 years, and including raising kids there. And the whole idea of that thing is kind of a reaction to the loneliness, the individual culture that's cropped up in this society. And, with the sustainability set of values that we had there, it was also about, can we live lighter on the land? And there's a lot of it certainly doesn't go as far as what you're doing with Farming Club, but there was a lot of community gardens, a lot of orchard, a lot of,
shared tools.
Shared tools, shared meals.
Unbelievable.
Now, can I just, we might as well be honest, like there are downsides to some of the club life and to the living in the eco village that I think we just have to be aware of. Like the Farming Club, weeding is not everyone's favorite thing, right? But it's part of growing food. You got to weed, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that you had, right, being part of the eco village.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you can turned some of the negatives into positives. Like I learned a fair amount about conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Because there were conflicts, and mediation becomes an important skill, leadership and meeting coordination and stuff like that. But I think there is no utopia, obviously. And even this episode, which is about, hey, there are a lot of positive reasons to join clubs. We've looked at some of the negatives, but something that also happens, this sort of broader club, this intentional community, which does veer into culthood, or can. There's plenty of those.
Were you the cult leader?
Yeah, no, I don't have the.
He doesn't have the hair for it. You do.
Don't have the charisma.
Is that what you need? You need hair?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, but there were all sorts of offshoots that would happen, right? Like I had a guitar club that people would meet at my house.
Yeah, he was trying to be the cult leader.
Yeah, like Jackson
guru.
Brown or
You're
something
so
like that.
wrong. I just was trying to have fun. You
Did you wear medallions?
No.
Take it easy.
You could have called that club beer club just as easily.
Sure. Yeah.
And actually that was something we did. We had a
beer.
club that would brew beer
And
together.
mead. You had mead.
Nice.
Mead, yeah. There was dance club, there's gardening, there's book clubs. So yeah,
Was there a gun club?
No, not surprisingly for our hippie commune type. But I guarantee you there are plenty of intentional communities that have regular times at the shooting range.
Sure.
Totally. I'm going to go back a little bit to my time in Willits, California, and there was a grange there called the Little Lake Grange, and it was almost gone. There was like 6 members left. This happened quite a bit around the country, and there's been this sort of revival in granges where younger people have kind of gotten into these granges and rebuilt the membership and then turned them into more like what they need for present time. And of course, that can be kind of awkward for the old guard, but it was kind of amazing to see this building that, is historic in town. And hardly anyone had been inside of it. And then we kind of got in, opened it up, and started filling it again with a pancake breakfast on Sunday mornings. And these dances, we would have dances, and people would throw birthday parties there where they hired a band. And I went through an initiation ceremony that was freaking awesome. I can't say anything about it.
Did it involve paddling your bottom?
But there was a wonderful sort of agrarian kind of mythological stuff that went on that was really kind of fun and appropriate. But anyhow, I know that there's granges around us now where that kind of stuff is going on. So I guess, what's interesting is this ties into sort of the farming club in a sense, is that, of course, that's a great place to meet people if you want to get connected to the rural community where you live. Like find out if there's a grange. And if so, maybe go and see what's going on. Like you're saying, Cher, like, oh, not everyone has a farm. But I tell you what, there's a way maybe you can find someone who has a farm.
Yeah.
And that could be just by getting out and interacting with an organization like this.
Or a community garden, honestly.
Or a community garden,
Maybe it doesn't have to be a farm.
Yeah.
And the other thing, John Michael Greer wrote this great piece that we actually published at resilience.org. We'll share it in the show notes. It was probably 15 years ago, actually talking about these old societies and the roles that they played in community life. And he made, I thought, a really good point, which is for our listeners, you might feel like you have no time to think about going and trying to suss out, are there existing clubs or groups that you could belong to, or God forbid you go to meetings and deal with all that shit, and some of it's bureaucratic or boring, or some of the traditions seem really hokey to you. But as he pointed out, 100 plus years ago, people worked harder than we work now. Like they found time. And there is something I think that's fulfilling in some ways, both about taking the time to be in relationship with people, come across people that you don't typically interact with, and even doing some of the traditions, I had that, as a teenager, doing some of the things that I was doing in BBYO were like, felt really hokey, but there were things that went back to, my dad was part of that club when he was a teenager, and my son is actually part of that club now. And it's like, there is something nice about maintaining those traditions and, maybe adapting them a little bit. So I would definitely encourage our listeners to just feel out there, see what's out there and just experiment with seeing what these things are like.
Yeah. And I would say too, we've thrown some pretty specialized types of organizations out there. Like not everybody's ready to go join an intentional community, or maybe somebody who's living in a city. The Grange isn't really something that they have access to. But there's tons of stuff. Like where I live in Portland, I've been lurking on the neighborhood emergency team.
Yes.
These neighborhood emergency teams, they're Portland residents in each kind of designated section of town where people get trained by professional fire and rescue and emergency preparedness people. And then they kind of meet up regularly and do skills building and figure out how are we going to respond in an emergency? I know I've talked a ton about when I've been working on Adopt One Block, where you go pick up garbage around your neighborhood. Incredible. Like these sorts of things, there's 1,000 of those. You guys have been involved in stuff like that too, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I picked up trash in my neighborhood yet.
Well,
we could bring some trash over.
Well, when the Mylar balloons that are released from town,
they come over here.
They kind of they get blown and then they deflate and they land on the farm. So yes,
I think that we should really do this community thing. Robin, we should go get some trash and bring it out here to Jason.
I love it. We will have a club and we will watch Jason grow like one of his young tennis players into a Mylar picking guru.
I can't wait to do that. And I'm going to have like the little wagon that you have, and those little tongs that you can you don't have to bend over. You can sort of squeeze and you pick up stuff and you
think
put them
about it. Your tennis
buckets.
grip will get stronger the more
oh my God,
balloons you pick up.
The win-win here is incredible.
I'm going to do double. I'm going to go left and right hand.
All right.
That's our show. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and you want others to consider these issues, then please share Crazy Town with your friends. Hit that share button in your podcast app or just tell them face to face. Maybe you can start some much needed conversations and do some things together to get us out of Crazy Town. Thanks again for listening and sharing.
Crazy Town, da, 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 crazy town.